You are watching live, hopefully listening on your car and truck radio, click it or ticket, all that stuff, right? To Rally Round the Natty, the best sports podcast in the Cincinnati area that's pre-recorded and done live, bringing you all of your Bengals, sometimes Reds if they decide to get their head out of their rear ends, and Bearcats needs. How we doing? I'm Santori Miles. Alongside me tonight, as always, is Bengal Dad and our perennial host, Cincy James. At this point, how we doing? How we doing? How we feeling? Good, bad, indifferent? Jump off a cliff? Where are we at?
Like shit.
Okay. I'm not allowed to cuss, but here we are.
Disappointed.
Yeah,
You know?
I'd say that's a fair word.
I'm a little embarrassed.
Embarrassed.
I'm embarrassed with the way they played. They keep coming out, no offense, no fire, no adrenaline. They expect to win these games by playing a half a game like they did last year. And now when they try to win these games in half games, they don't have the deep shots. It's not there. It takes too long for them to score points to mount the comeback they need.
Right. It's I think the slow start is it's not a death sentence, but you can't start too far behind, especially most games in the NFL are decided by 4 points or less, and I think we've been living that nightmare for about six straight games now. You can't afford to have the first 4 or 5 drives of your game be a feeling it out process. Most teams, if they have to feel it out, it's like 1 or 2 drives, and maybe they get a field goal and they're still working through some things, but it takes us 5 or 6 drives to get a first down sometimes, and that's you can't. You're running backward in mud at that point.
They got one on the first play.
I was going to say we had 11 yards on the first play, and then we had 9 yards total after like 4 or 5 drives.
Yeah, well, I think it was the first drive they had 17 yards. The second drive they had -10, and then they had 7. So I think they had 14 yards like after the first quarter, and then I think they had 22 after the first 4 drives. I mean, you should be getting 22 a drive regardless.
It's a bold strategy, Cotton.
See if it pays off for them. But in lieu of focusing on all the negatives, because there's more than enough, one thing that I have learned about my mental health is that if you do, I'm not a silver linings person, so don't get that shit twisted. But if you do try to look at some positives, you won't drive yourself crazy. It's real easy just to sink into the dark side and just spew hate and nastiness. But for the sake of not hating myself for the next 6 days, there were some good things to look at.
There's 3 right off the top of my head I can think of.
Well, I want to focus on the big bellies up front, man.
1.
Over the last 3 games, they've given up a combined 5 sacks between the 5 of them. Each one has accounted for 1 sack over the last 3 games. They had their highest rated pass blocking performance. And keep this in mind, Pro Football Focus is really easy to just bash pass blocking. It's really hard to get good grades in Pro Football Focus. There are times I think they look fine, and then they get pooped all over.
At 26th grade or whatever it was.
Right. So if you grade well on Pro Football Focus, it's hard to defend it. If you get some negative grades, you can kind of nitpick, they're looking at an immediate loss. They don't count recovery. Well, guess what? In order to get a good grade, you had to be borderline perfect. And the 5 guys up front did excellent. I think Jonah Williams was in the 80s. We had 3 guys in the 70s. Lyle Collins was a 64.5, which, a lot of people are ripping on right now. In Pro Football Focus vernacular, anything above a 60 or 60 to like 65 is considered average. So if you'd have told me that our worst lineman was going to be average, I'll take that every night. So, that was the line they paid for. So I was very happy to see that. And the previous 2 weeks hadn't been much different. So that's one thing that I do think deserves some praise.
Can I jump in and be the contrary into this?
Give me a second. Give me a second to finish my thought.
Okay.
We were saying it might take 5 to 6 weeks to start seeing some results. This was the first really good game. But at the same time, it has slowly kind of progressed. And as somebody that was as critical as Frank Pollock as I was the last 3 or 4 weeks, I've cooled the Jets on it because I'm seeing some results. Tear them up, Bengal Dad.
As you are wont to say, if I would have told you at any time in the last 3 years that our offensive line would have had the lowest grade of a 64 and would have averaged like 75, which would have been really good in Pro Football Focus's mind, that we would have scored 17 points,
that'd have been a problem.
Mm-hmm.
That's a real problem.
And that's one thing I kind of wanted to talk about.
And at the same time, I don't know what the stat was, but I'm gonna guess they probably averaged 5.5 to 6 yards a carry.
I think it was 5.7.
Is that what it was? And we scored 17 points.
Mm-hmm.
And somehow with that offensive line and that running game, we couldn't score from the 2-yard line.
Well, they didn't run it.
I know they didn't.
Running the ball from inside the 5 is a lot different animal, but I would have at least liked to try it. So I'll throw that bone to you. But
go ahead with number 2.
Well, I didn't have number 2. I just wanted to talk about them. Cincy James, you had 3.
Oh, he had 3. I'm sorry.
Yeah. So I had offensive line was 1. This kind of ties in with the offensive line. Joe Mixon averaging 5.7 yards a carry.
Yeah.
That's big. That he hasn't. I mean, he was averaging 2.7 throughout the entire season so far. Then he comes up and he starts averaging 2.5. Starts averaging 5.7 in that game last night and looked good.
Well, he ran a little different. They didn't do anything drastically different in terms of how they were scheming. And Baltimore's defensive front had been pretty good this year. Their pass rush couldn't speak for their run defense off the top of my head, but the pass rush had been fine. But no, that's encouraging. In that, what was your third? Because all this is tying into where I want to go next.
Defense still hasn't allowed a touchdown in the second half all season.
No, I don't agree with exactly what the approach was in the final 2 minutes.
Right.
But
Uh,
then don't break mentality is what it looked like.
Yeah, I don't.
You
That
can't
doesn't work
do that
when
when you
you-
only need to give up 35 yards.
It doesn't work. Doesn't work when you can only give up
You
this
need to
much.
shut them down right then.
Completely agree. Hey, my wife called. Let me call her real quick. I'll hop right back on.
Okay.
All right.
Next, offensive identity. And we had kind of talked about this, and I forget who it was. I really need to start keeping better notes on what I see from certain people on Twitter. But it was brought up that the Bengals haven't been really doing the spread them out and let their athletes win like they'd done over the previous 2 years with Burrow. And that's where he's had most of the success, right? You know, when they do the scat protection, the 5-what. I think everybody in Cincinnati knows what scat protection is now just because of what they had done over the last 3 to 4 years with that concept. This is not the LSU offense that they had been running the previous couple years, right? And we saw that they had tried to run that early on against the Steelers and the Cowboys, and they just couldn't hold up. The offensive line was not doing anything. I wouldn't even say they were doing its job. They were just pathetic. When you get into that situation, you have to adjust. And you always, we've questioned this too. How do you mask a bad offensive line? Well, instead of letting guys go 5 wide and letting your athletes win, you start scheming plays for specific players, which is what we've been seeing. You've been seeing screens. You've been seeing quick throws to Jamar Chase out in the flat. You've been seeing pick plays. You've been seeing quick slants. You've been seeing draws, the stuff that's isolated and made to go one guy, which in 1 or 2 read plays. The issue with that is now you have all the time, but they're just dropping everybody back because there's no threat of a run game. And when you do an umbrella coverage like they're doing, which is all of the guys, whether it's, cover 3, half, quarter, half, whatever you want to call it, when they're doing, pardon my wife doing laundry in the background, when you're doing all of these over-the-top coverages and you have to do isolated plays, that doesn't work. And a lot of this is because they don't have an offensive identity right now. There's no respect for the run game, as up to last night. There might be a little bit now moving forward, who knows. But the Bengals had to mid-season completely change everything they wanted to do with their offensive passing concepts. And on top of that, T. Higgins is getting hurt every other game, whether he wants to or not. So when you're losing guys in the middle of the game and you have to completely reinvent how you want to call and do your offense, and your run game doesn't work, I don't care how creative the plays are. I don't care what you're calling. It's not going to work. That's just kind of what's going on right now. So for all the people that are just bashing Zach for the bad play calling, it doesn't matter what he calls because there's no identity. There's no threat to run the ball. There's no threat for Tyler Boyd because they're not forcing him the ball. They're doing all these one-read plays. Defenses can just press up and do what they want to do because they've put themselves in this position to where they have to call isolated plays for certain players instead of just spreading it out and say, go win at the point of attack. Defenses play them different. That allows you to take guys out of the box. Dad, you mentioned this. You mentioned this earlier. If they start running the ball well, that's one more guy in the box. It's one less guy to coverage.
Mm-hmm.
Start spreading it out, which this is where I think they're going to go from here. If the protection is what it's going to be the last 3 weeks, you can start going back to what you used to do, going 5 wide, going 4 wide with leaving a tight end or a back end. You're going to be able to get away with that and then let your guys be athletes on the outside. So I'm not going to rip Zach right now because he's had to reinvent everything about his offense on the fly with injuries. And that's just not the way they're built. It's not the way they're programmed. It's not their concepts.
Did you guys see T. Higgins in warmups? Did you see him like way before the game started?
No.
He didn't look good in that to me. And then he comes out and he runs one route and then is out the rest of the game. Just kind of seemed like, I don't know, seemed like maybe they just shouldn't have played him at all. Like, sit him.
He was limited all week. The one thing that was nice to see, though, is there were quite a few times where Michael Thomas was cooking Peters.
Very true.
So it's maybe
he put him on skates.
Maybe Thomas is a guy they can rely on just a little bit. But, just going back to the Zach thing, if teams don't think you're going to run the ball, there's several things that happen. They drop everyone in coverage, okay? Especially when you do run the ball, you get 2 yards, so they're not really trying to stop it, okay? Drop everyone in coverage, takes guys out of the box. You don't have to pass rush with many guys, especially the way the season was going to start. No one's going to buy the play action. See Patrick Queen from last night. It doesn't matter what you call when the defense doesn't respect your playbook. It all comes down to the fact that the line was so piss poor that they had to redo everything they wanted to do on offense. The line's starting to get better. I expect them to try, especially over this next 6-game cream puff schedule they've got, to get back to basics. I think you're going to start seeing some scat protection. I think you're going to start seeing, a lot of 4 wide receiver sets and a tight end, or, the 11 personnel, but it's 5 wide or whatever. I think they're getting to a point where they're going to be comfortable to open it back up to where they were, as opposed to running an offense that it's not designed for them. This is an emergency offense they're trying to run. So when people rip on Zach, these are like his 3rd and 4th calls. He's not doing what he wants to do right now.
Go ahead, Greg.
Yeah. All right, just got on. Yeah, you know what I mean? People can call Zach out all they want. I was on social media. People are going after Zach, the offensive line. Bottom line is, defenses play very well, but, the offense, I mean, it's just like the same obvious calls, short pass, run. And, I was saying to myself, can they for once be creative? And once they get to the 1-yard line, the old saying goes, be careful what you wish for and all that. And, I'm like, no, just run it straight up. Don't be creative. I mean, I was going for it on 4th down, but that pitch thing, I'm like, you've got to be kidding me. And so that was my take right there. Be careful what you wish for because they got creative at the 1 yard line.
Yeah,
I'm kind of curious about something. I want a consensus of the four. Where were where were your thoughts at as far as the 4th and 1? Do you go for it or do you kick a field goal?
Points. That's where I was.
I was on points.
Um,
Greg, where were you?
so
I would have gone for it. I mean, like I am for taking the points. Don't get me wrong, but I just would have gone for it. But and one more thing I want to say: the final drive where they got that touchdown. Why are they taking their time going down the field? I'm like, we just set the Ravens up to win the game at the 2-minute warning. I mean, we took like 5 minutes off the clock. I would have tried to have scored when there was at least a couple minutes left, so we could be in the position where we have the ball at the end. But the way how we took our time, I'm like, we just set the Ravens up to win the game, literally.
Answer Dad's question. Well, I answer Greg's question first because I have a shorter answer for that. I don't think they went slow enough. I am a proponent of when things are moving, you kill your own clock.
Yeah.
I would have liked to see him run the ball a couple more times. Fortunately for the Ravens, and this is going to sound really weird, but in hindsight, it's fortunate. They had a bunch of penalties that sped up the Bengals' progress down the field. I think they had every intention of taking another minute to a minute and a half off that clock with their ground game. I really do. So, sometimes penalties help you. It's one of those things where we scored too quick, in my opinion. But I understand your concept. You either want to score right away so there is time, or you want to milk everything out of it. And unfortunately, the way the penalties happened, because there were a couple PIs, that
in the middle
40 yards. So back to Dad, I think right before the Philly special, I told him if they get within 2 yards, I'll go for it because my threshold's always about 2 to 3 yards.
Yeah.
Depending on how I feel the game's going. Just a personal thing. And Boyd took that hit, and they lost 12 back to the 14, whatever it was. And I was like, kick this field goal if they don't get it. And then as soon as they got all the way back down to the 2, I looked at him. I said, screw it, go for it. You're right back in it now. So I'm very much like this. But at the same time, I still stayed true to my value of if you're within the 2, you go for it. And I know Dad's thing is they're on the road, you tie it. I understand that to a degree. I get it.
I think football is the opposite of baseball. Baseball on the road, you go for the win. You play for a tie at home because you got the last at bat. You're not guaranteed the last at bat in football. So I think anytime you can get points and it's a tight game and this wasn't just a normal game. This was a very, very big divisional national TV. This was the game that the Bengals needed, I think, to give them the impetus in my mind to kind of get them over the top. This just pushed them back down. That's what I think. That's how I feel about it.
Well, to finish my philosophy, though, if it would have been 5 seconds left in the game and they were at the 1 on the road and I'm guaranteed overtime, which is that last at bat you're talking about, I'll kick. Middle of the third quarter, my odds go through the roof to win the game if I can get 2 yards. They don't really move a whole lot if I tie it. My whole thing is, because to me, being tied is the same as being down by 3. It's still another score I have to get to take the lead. And I always operate on how many scores am I down. So if I'm down, 16 points with 10 minutes to go, no, I'm not kicking a field goal. I'm still down 2 scores after this. That's just a wasted, I'm not going to score to go down 2 scores. That doesn't make sense to me. So if I'm in the middle of the third quarter and I have a chance to take a lead and all I need to do is 6 feet, I'm going to take that chance because I still do have another drive after this. And I have been moving the ball well, and my defense has been playing well. That was my thought process on that.
I would like to know what the success rate is for the Bengals on 2-point conversions because there's less pressure on a 2-point conversion than there is 4th and 1 from the 2. They don't seem like a very successful. You remember how surprised everybody was against Kansas City when they hit Trent Taylor for a 2-point conversion? It was like, hey, that's the first one they converted all year. They're not a team that prospers in that situation. I don't think they know who they are sometimes.
Let me find the stat. Now, granted, this year I don't know, but let me look up 2021.
Bengal Dad, to what we just said. I mean, that's the thing. We surprised everybody last year. I mean, you look at the Ravens did. They played a zone defense on us all game. I was listening to Mo Edger today, or Tony Pike. I think it was Pike that said this. Teams in the offseason all said, we studied the Bengals. We have our main goal was how do we beat the Bengals and all that. Every team we played us. Like, you see how they guarded Chase. You know, everybody completely changed their. They never did that or anything. They just stuck to the same playbook as last year. Well, guess what? You're not going to have man-on-man on Chase anymore. You saw Chase yesterday. He was literally triple teamed half the time. You know, the Bengals, they're not – it doesn't seem like they're willing to adapt or anything because they're going to be playing you differently.
Well, the other part of that is they can't adapt to that because in order to get 3 guys off of Chase, you have to get them to load the box.
Yeah, got to run.
If you're going to load the box, you need to be good at running the ball. They can stop the run with 4 guys in the box. They can get to the passer with 4 guys. It all comes down to the fact that the line sucked. You need to make the defense just by either having to stop the run or get pressure. Yeah. If you're going to allow the front 4 to dictate the entire game for the defense, it allows that secondary to do whatever it wants. You know, as a corners coach, I always said, I don't really care how good my guys are. If you're getting pressure, I'll stick any Joe Blow back there and I'll be fine. You know, but the moment that your D-line doesn't get pressure anymore, that's when you have problems because you've got to bring extra supporting cast in to try and get there or you're screwed. Yeah. So if what I'm hoping that I saw with Baltimore, that the offensive line's starting to really pick it up, if Mixon can get going and they have to bring a safety down and start going into single high, even if it goes to cover 3, the schematics between cover 3, which is 3 up top and 4 underneath, is a lot different than 2 up top, 2 in the middle, 2 in the flat, and you're having to hit a honey hole in the sideline. Yeah. So, yeah, I mean, cover 2 is a pain in the ass to beat if you don't have a run game. But this is the great thing. The times that they ran against 2 high safeties last week, they averaged 6 yards a carry. So, again, I don't know how good Baltimore is traditionally at stopping the run this year. I shouldn't say traditionally. This year, traditionally, they're really good. It's really going to depend where this line goes. And once, you know, it does Zach and do Zach and Brian have confidence to start really churning the run. And when that happens, the play action happens. And when the run happens and the play action happens, the box starts to get loaded. And then you can start – I mean, they ran well out of shotgun. You can start spreading it out, and teams are going, crap, even though there's 5 wide, I can't just put 4 in the box for Joe Mixon. So it's – what we're seeing, I'm hoping, is what we've been waiting for the last 3 to 4 weeks, which we said it would take time for the line to gel. If that's truly what's going to happen over the next 1 to 6 weeks, I think it's going to open up. If this,
can I throw another negative in there?
Hold on. If this is a fluke and it was just one isolated game, you're in for a long season.
Yeah. I know you said you don't want to go to the dark side, but I've been in the dark side all day.
You can play devil's advocate, and I'll keep it light.
I cannot get off the dark side. Why in the world, especially if you think that they're maybe seeing what you think you might be seeing with this offensive line, why is it every time we're in 2nd and 1 or 2nd and 2, we do a quarterback sneak or a little run up the middle? Why not take that shot?
I answered it 5 seconds ago.
Coming after you.
I answered it 5 seconds ago. The answer was, I'm hoping that Zach and Brian start to have more confidence in their own offense.
Well, they needed to have a little more confidence yesterday in the 4th quarter.
They did
when they were getting those 2nd and 1s.
Well, they didn't.
And they had a better chance of taking the game right then than on that 4th and goal where you got 1 shot.
I agree with you. But you'll hear this in Zach's presser today, because I'm sure someone asked, I'm sure someone said it, because it gets asked all the time on short yardage situations. And he probably said it regarding the first drive, because coaches say the same 8 things in their press conferences. We just want to get the first down to get confidence. It's always when you have a team that they get 9 yards on first down and your quarterback sneaks it in the middle of the field on 2nd and 1, they're not confident.
Right.
Okay.
Now, something else.
Telltale sign.
Something else about confidence. One thing we haven't seen before is Joe Burrow lacking confidence. I think this quote that from that Ben Baby put on Twitter is definitely something where he's lacking confidence. He says there's just nothing down the field if teams are going to play us like they did today.
Yeah.
Well,
You got to freaking find a way.
That worried me too.
Yeah, he's got to find a way. There's other ways you can beat him. You can beat him with 8 and 10 yard passes. It just takes 3 or 4 of those.
well, that's the thing, though. Like you said, you can beat him with 8 and 10. What Joe's referring to is those 20 to 50s.
I understand that. He can't, so he can't be his little shining superstar he wants to be at the moment.
No, we can't.
This is the first crack I've seen in the Joe Burrow armor.
I don't think it's a crack in the armor. I think he's being realistic about what teams are trying to do. I mean, they basically did to the Bengals yesterday what the Bengals did to Kansas City, and it drove us insane, and it drove Kansas City insane. They dropped a bunch of players because there's no threat to run the ball. And granted, the Bengals did run it a little bit, but they didn't pound it like they could have toward the end. But just an idea here, so I can show you something. Share screen. Got to hit all these tabs. Look at that coverage over the top. Deep corner, deep linebacker, deep. They got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. They got 7 guys 12 yards deep or more. And you wonder, this was the play where you said, why did Burrow check down so fast? Well, that's a pick. Maybe if that develops a little bit more, but he's got help here and here over the top. This is a pick. So you got 2 checkdowns. I mean, and quite frankly, your left guard's getting pushed back right in Burrow's lap. If he doesn't have time to wait for Boyd, you've got 7 guys deep in the secondary. You got to get it and rid of it.
I understand. I understand that, but what's the shame in throwing the ball to either Mixon or whoever that was down at the bottom, Hayden Hurst, I guess? What's the shame in throwing it to him? He acts like this is like
he did throw it to him.
I know, but he acts like it's shameful to do that.
It's not shameful. It's just not how it's designed, and people are ripping on him. Why don't you go downfield? There's nothing open downfield, so I hit that. That's what I'm telling you. I don't think it's a chink in the armor. I think what he's saying is we have to take what they're giving us because of the way it's being played. And like I'm saying, quite frankly, if it wasn't for the fact that was 3rd and 14, I'll take that check down all day. If we can go 5 wide and get that time, and they want to leave 2 guys wide open in the flat, and they really want to drop 7 like that, I'll dink and dunk my way down the field all day. The biggest issue is, and you'll agree with this, is 1st and 2nd down are such a disaster that they're constantly in 3rd long. If that play was 1st down and it was a check down to Hayden Hurst and he ran over the corner and got 6 more yards and it was a 12-yard gain on 1st down, you'll say, I'll take it all day. The issue is it's coming at the wrong situation.
It sounds like it's there all day and they're not taking it.
That one wouldn't be there on the early downs, though, because they're running cover 2. Cover 2's in the flat. That wouldn't be there.
Don't you beat it down the middle?
You can, but if they don't respect the run game, the linebackers are going to bail. Part of beating cover 2 down the seam is getting the linebackers to hesitate and creating separation. If the linebackers go, and just drop back, especially Tampa 2, there's nothing in the middle.
Well, I think Burrow needs to be a little more creative. I thought he played a good game yesterday. I'm not banging on him for that. I'm banging on him about this comment. But you got to find ways to beat coverages. I mean, a pump fake? Hey, how about a pump fake? I haven't seen him ever do that.
I think that might be a lost art. I don't
know. Ben
Roethlisberger was the last guy I ever really saw do it.
I mean, something. They got to do something. They can't just throw their hands up and say, well, I guess we need to punt now.
Let me ask a question. How many total rushes did we have yesterday?
20. I think
it was 20.
I think it was 20.
To me, the magic number is to run roughly 35 to 40% of your offensive plays. And I hate running the ball. I hate leaning on the run. You guys know my stance on running the ball. I think it needs to be mixed in as a changeup. That's more or less what it is. But if you're not effective at it, you might as well not do it. So yesterday they were effective. They ran the ball 21 times out of the 56 attempts. So it was a good mix. But it's the other problem. They only ran 56 plays. You should be averaging 70. Give me another 14 plays. I'm sure we'll score 2 more points.
Just because it needs somebody else to write that script at the beginning of the game.
Yes, the slow starts are a disaster. Now
They are always falling behind.
and that's
Now
not.
they didn't in 2 of the games. The 2 games they won, they didn't fall behind in.
No, well, here's the deal. They also got the ball first, and the script was great. Yesterday, the first play was great. Then they went to a second screen, and Baltimore bit on it right away. And then this is where I talk about they are picking plays for players as opposed to letting their guys win. It was an ISO screen to Chase. Then the next play was an ISO screen to Chase. Then the next play was that power stretch to Chase where Boyd missed a chip and Collins looked terrible, and everybody blamed Collins and Boyd missed his block. Okay, so now you're in 3rd and long. Well, guess what? Now you're in 3rd and long, and T. Higgins is now out of the game. So, oops, and you're screwed. So
I got another question for you.
Okay.
Let's go back to Philly special.
Yeah.
Obviously, you put a guy in motion to be able to tell if a team's in man-to-man or zone, right? Isn't that part of the purpose of putting a guy in motion?
That's part of the program, yes.
Did they put a guy in motion for that play? I can't remember.
It's different on the goal line. On the goal line, one, you can almost always assume man on the goal line. It is very, very, very infrequent that teams run a flat coverage in the goal line, which is what Baltimore did. I need to see the play again. But that play, again, it's one of those things where if it works, everybody calls Zach Taylor a genius. See the Super Bowl with the toss pass to Mixon.
Yeah.
Everybody loved that play. If that had got picked, we just said, what the hell are we doing? Why didn't they just run it? You know, it's the same situation, borderline same play call. It's a trick play down close.
I didn't mind the call. I just wondered if there was a way to sniff out the defense before you did it.
It's hard to sniff out a corner. You can sniff out a linebacker. You can sniff out a safety. The thing with the Philly special is you need a lot more sleight of hand. You need a lot more moving parts. It's supposed to be a play where you look like you don't know what you're doing at the start. You know, the one we always, it's just a trick play. We call it the Philly special because Philly ran it to perfection. It's been a play for 50 years.
Yeah.
The thing when Philly ran it, when Nick Foles came to the line, he looked left, he looked right, he stuck his hands up, he looked confused, he lined up under the guard. Everybody's like, what the hell's going on? There's some showmanship. The Bengals just ran to the line and snapped it. They don't execute pitches well, so there's no reason to over pursue on a pitch. They don't ever run a reverse, so there was no reason to expect that was going to happen. And the corner was playing in a cover 2 flat, and he looked up, saw Joe Burrow was in front of him. So that you need, and this is where I will dig a little bit on play calling. This is where it gets into, people say it's not creative. That is a creative play. The shovel pass was a creative play. They ran a shovel pass out of quads. People typically don't run it out of a quad set, okay? It comes down to execution, which that is a coaching thing. But, you know, Zach Taylor's not the one coaching the right tackle in the chipping wide receiver to clip a Calais Campbell. That's not Zach Taylor. That's an offensive line and blocking protection communication. You know, there is some blame to put on coaching for this, but it's not necessarily all on Zach. Like with the play calling. They said this a million times in the interview today because I think they got tired of answering the question. Zach Taylor doesn't call the plays by himself. Okay? From my high school coaching experience, my varsity offensive coordinator and head coach did not call the plays solo. Okay? I've worn one of those headsets. There's about 6 guys in there saying what they think is going to work. And a lot of times the head coach, especially Zach, and I'm sure he's done this, he's looking at his giant Waffle House menu and he'll say, I need a quick throw. And then Brian will say something. Joe's probably yelling something from the sideline. They got to make sure the personnel's right. It's not just Zach sitting there calling in a play. It's not that simplistic. Even on the freshman level, when I'm out there with a bunch of freaking 14-year-olds who don't know left from right, my offensive coordinator and head coach are saying, I need a quick pass. What do you got? And my job as the defensive coach was to go, well, they've been running a lot of cover 2. You need a honey hole or something underneath. Okay. And the coordinator goes, well, let's run this concept or this concept. And then the other coach goes, that personnel's in there. Let's make sure we go out of this formation. It's like a 4 or 5 man effort every single play. So stop blaming Zach. It's not that easy, and it's not
so
that simple.
I have a a question where I'm a guy that never played football. Massive fan of it.
I didn't play long, so
Hey, I'm
Well-
going to call a timeout. I'm going to go grab something to eat because I see some pork chops that are calling my name, but I'll be back.
okay. We'll bop
So-
you out of here for a second.
Get rid of the-
So my question is, so from the outside looking in, it almost feels like a too many Chiefs, not enough Indians type of situation where you only have a set amount of time to be able to call a play, and you have to listen to 5 other people saying something.
So
Yeah.
in between,
So
drives-
that's where I don't know what goes on in that situation.
So no, in the headset, it's probably 2 or 3. In between drives, it's more 4 or 5. So once the defense goes onto the field, everybody sits down and they all start.
Yeah. Oh, of course. Yeah.
And that's when you'll get Burrow's input, you'll get the receiver's input, you'll get Frank Pollock's input for what he's seeing on the offensive line. You'll
Right.
get Doug Rosfeld's input for game time management situations. You'll get Zach's input for what he thinks they're going to work on. You'll get Callahan's input because he's the eye in the sky in the booth. Then during the actual play calling process, you have a run game coordinator and a pass game coordinator. Frank Pollock's going to have some input on the run plays. Callahan's going to have input on the pass plays. It's probably a 3-man effort at that point. They give Burrow a run, Burrow a pass, and then from that point, Burrow can check it at the line.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it does seem like there's a lot of cooks in the kitchen kind of thing.
Right.
At the same time, if there's 32 teams in the NFL, 28 of them do it that way.
Right.
This is a normal procedure.
But not everybody's Andy Reid calling plays.
Yeah.
Correct. And like I said, when you have your offensive line in shambles and you have to rewrite your entire offense to how you want to do things, it doesn't really matter what you call.
Yeah.
It's not your offense. I mean, here's the deal. If Lamar Jackson goes out tomorrow and it's not Tyler Huntley back there, but instead it's like a Matt Schaub, not saying he's going to come back to the age of 50, but, just a standard pocket passer, that entire offense is going to look a lot different.
Oh yeah.
The protections are going to look a lot different. The
Yeah.
passing concepts are going to look a lot different. And then everyone's going to go, oh, my God, Harbaugh, why can't you call plays? We just had to change everything.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, now it's mid-game, and there goes J.K. Dobbins and Rashad Bateman.
Yeah.
Okay, well, now I got to change everything again.
Mm-hmm.
By the way, my line now sucks. They put themselves in a situation where they're so far behind the 8 ball through the first 2 weeks that in order to save the season, they had to rewrite everything they were doing. So when I say that instead of going 5 wide and letting their guys go 1-on-1 to win, they're having to design plays for specific players. Case in point, the interception. Okay, that's a play action dig. It's designed for one guy. It's really only one read. There's progressions, but on a play action where he's got to turn his whole body and go, you take your eyes off the field. It's one play and check down. He thought he had it. He didn't see the linebacker backing up. It's a one read play. The power run, the veer to Jamar Chase. That's obviously a designed one-man play. It's a run, so obviously there's that, but that's designed for Jamar Chase. Jamar Chase is in the backfield. Everybody's going to kind of go, okay, what's going on here? You had a screen to Jamar Chase right away. The next play was a screen to Jamar Chase right away. You had 2 or 3 screens to running backs with P. Ryan and Mixon.
Mhm.
Those are not plays where you're letting your guys go outside and win. They've rebuilt their offensive philosophy to mask the offensive line's inability to block.
Yeah, I was going to say they're trying to extend the running game with that,
Right.
trying to get it going.
And the other thing is they can't run, or at least they haven't been able to up until about half of the game last night. So you can't run, and you've had to redo your entire offensive philosophy. It doesn't matter what you're going to call. Especially, you can't get in a rhythm doing that. It's obvious Zach and Brian are having trust issues with what they want to do because there's inconsistencies with what they're doing. I mean, for God's sakes, how many times are we going to see a wide pitch to Mixon and just hope it gets back to the line? It doesn't work.
Mm-hmm.
Because they're trying to avoid the penetration of the middle. They're trying to get guys in space. What you do when you have a bad line is you get the ball in your playmaker's hands with room to run. Pitches, screens, slants, RPOs. Does any of that sound like the offense from the last 2 years that came from LSU? No.
No.
Okay. That offense is the LSU offense. That is the core of this playbook, and they can't run it. They might be able to now, but as long as Burrow doesn't feel confident going out behind 5 guys and letting Burrow do his thing, let Joe Cook type stuff, you have a different offensive identity. But when you can't run the ball, they're just going to drop 8, and
Yep.
it's check down city all day. So unfortunately, until the line gets better and Zach and Joe and Brian trust the offensive line to actually pass protect for 3 or 4 seconds, this is what you've got.
Mhm.
It's not necessarily a play calling problem. It's I know my limitations and I'm not going to get Joe killed problem. You want to open it up? You want to throw bombs and run your 9-8-9 and all your play actions and boots? Go for it. Joe ain't going to make it to week 7.
And the defense is covered up a lot.
They're playing out of their mind, which is
Mhm.
another reason why you can be a little conservative. They can afford it.
Right.
They're not in shootouts. Remember this time last year, the defense was absolute trash. They
Oh,
were
yeah.
in shootouts last year.
Yeah. Defense, I don't think we allowed a touchdown the second half in like the first 5 games of the year, did we? I think 1 touchdown, wasn't it? In the second half we allowed.
Maybe. I mean, that's kind of what we're doing now, but we're not giving up points in the first half either.
Yeah.
It's frustrating just because it takes such a slow start.
Yes.
But the core of the problem is I don't think that they trust the offensive line to do what the core of their playbook says to do, which is spread it out and pick on the middle of the field. Because here's the other thing. You can run cover 2 all you want, which is 2 high and 2 in the flat, and rush 4. So you got 2 other guys in the middle or 3 other guys in the middle, whatever. If you run 5 wide and you want to stay 2 high, that's a death sentence.
So I got a guy I know who's a Cowboys fan, and he's like, I told you guys about La'el Collins, about him getting hurt and all that. He wasn't that good. What do you think the issue with Collins is right now? Well,
He played fine yesterday. There's no issue.
There was one play that he got beat, like bad, but other than that,
The shovel pass was his fault. And
Yeah.
for an offensive lineman to get a little lost on a trick play, so be it. Collins had a pass blocking grade of 65, which is considered average.
Yeah.
He's been run blocking well the entire year. Collins has given up 1 sack over the last 3 weeks. Hello.
say hi, man.
Hi.
If Collins plays
What
this
are you
way,
guys doing?
like he's played the last 3 weeks, the rest of the year, he will have given up 5 sacks on the entire year, which is very normal. He's playing as a substandard offensive line right now because he's still learning. Here's the thing. And this isn't out there all over the place because this is just the way the NFL works. Okay, not every injury gets reported, but I can tell you this, and it's not a whole lot of secret for people who, are kind of in the realm. He has a bad ankle, he has a bad back, he has a bad hip. He's in a new system that he's trying to learn on a play calling system where people aren't calling the plays that they have been prepped to be called for. Your right tackle is going to look bad. Okay? Calm down. He'll be fine. The other thing is everybody's like, oh my God, we're spending all kinds of money. Collins' contract is dirt cheap.
Yeah, no, it's very cheap.
He has like a $2 million base salary and a $100,000 game bonus per game for the next 3 years.
Mm-hmm.
He only gets paid if he plays. You could cut him for nothing. It's not going to hurt. He is a boomer bust prospect that you've got for 3 years, and at the height of his game, he is elite.
Yep, I was going to say he's got all the potential.
Give it more than 4 games for
What?
the guy. Can we please take the rest on La'el Collins?
Let's go.
She said something about the Rams win, and no, they haven't, sweetie.
No, they
know
did
what?
that. They did that in February. We don't talk about it.
You look it's the Bengals. Bengals, all their losses were by a field goal or less. Rams have been getting blown out by all their losses. Has anybody ever noticed that? I mean, the Rams, man, are just bad right now. Nobody's really talking. I don't know if everybody's really talking about that right now.
Well, here's the deal. That's not the same Rams team as last year.
Nope.
Yeah.
They lost their left tackle. They lost their left guard.
Yep.
They lost their center. They
Mhm.
lost OBJ.
Von Miller.
They've lost Von Miller, and I
Yeah.
think they lost another receiver.
Well,
They
maybe
added
Joe
Allen
They,
will
they haven't had
come
Van Jefferson.
One day.
Yeah, Van Jefferson, and they added Allen Robinson, who's done absolutely nothing.
Yeah.
So you lose half your defense, you lose half your offense. They don't have any run game worth to speak of in terms of athletes at the running back position. Cam Akers and Henderson are okay. It's not anything I'd get excited about. You can't just throw to one guy the whole time. Look what's going on with Jamar right now. They're going to start doing that crap to Cooper Kupp.
Cooper Kupp, though. But you know what? As one guy was saying, you look at all the games, like they act like, oh, we can't throw to Jamar anymore. You look at Kelsey or like all those other guys who are well respected. Everybody knows they're a top player, but they still find ways to get open. They still find ways. Justin Jefferson, everybody knows he's a top receiver, but with that being said, with the way how they handle them, they still find ways to get open or produce. And that's not what Chase has been doing the last couple. I'm not trying to get on Chase or anything, but
no, but here's the deal. That comes back to scheming for specific players.
Yeah.
Who do the Vikings have outside of Justin Jefferson?
Adam Thielen.
And that's it.
Okay.
A
So
32-year-old wide receiver.
So their entire offense is based around one guy. That's it. So they're going to have to, or they're screwed. The other thing is, though, they do have the respect of the run game in Minnesota.
Mm-hmm.
They do have a good line. Okay, they have had traditionally decent tight ends. And talk whatever you want about Kirk Cousins, he doesn't really mess up. He's not great in primetime games. He's kind of like a high-leveled version of Andy.
Right.
But if you've got a competent quarterback and you are scheming for one guy the entire time,
Hi, guys.
but here's the other thing. Here's the devil's advocate for it. Justin Jefferson had 122 yards 6 minutes into the second quarter.
Hi.
He was pacing for 300 yards. He got like 20 yards the rest of the game. And then the Vikings didn't do anything. That's one thing that if you do want to do that to the Bengals, there are other guys. But then when your other guys get hurt, like T, and then you're scheming for, individual shot plays to T, and now it's just Jamar, and now your offense is designed around that one shot, and now you're just getting quadruple covered, and there's no respect for the run game. It's now a different story.
Let me ask you guys just one simple question. Would Burrow right now be better on the Bengals or the Browns? You look at the Browns, best running attack. Best offensive line.
Browns.
Receivers is not as good, but something Burrow could work with and all that. I mean, who would he
If Burrow was on the Browns, they would be the scariest team in the NFL.
easily?
It wouldn't.
Browns' rookie year, he probably could have won the Super Bowl. I don't care if I'm exaggerating. I mean, the Browns are just like, you look at Brissett yesterday, he had all the time in the world. They lost the game because of Jacoby Brissett. And Brissett really didn't play that bad. He was playing really well until he had to get selfish and all that. The Browns, though, every year, I just don't get the Browns. They have maybe one of the most talented rosters in the league, and they still can't get it together. And San Diego, that Chargers coach gave them a gift by going for it on.
Uh-oh. You've awakened Bengal Dad, I think. He heard he heard Chargers coach. He's been going off about that all week.
Okay.
Is he coming back, or is he just getting something to drink?
I'm coming back.
I will say about that real quick before he hops in.
You mentioned Staley, and that was it. That's all it took.
Yep. But before he hops in real quick, what I'll say is Greg and I talked about it yesterday.
Yeah.
So is that an instance where your coach makes such a boneheaded play and almost gives up the game that you think about possibly moving on after a win?
It's only
Yes.
playoffs
Yes.
year. They would miss the playoffs because of his play calling last year, right?
It's not the first time he's done something stupid like that. And
Right.
I love Nate Burleson to death. I think Nate Burleson is a fantastic commentator. I think he's very smart. He's very entertaining to listen to. He made a comment saying that he's made 7 questionable decisions, and in each of those games that they're 7-0. I vastly disagree with that, because he made a highly questionable decision that would have put them in the playoffs last year, and they lost, and their team missed a chance to win a Super Bowl. And Herbert was on fire.
Mm-hmm.
So, with the way the AFC shook out, the Chargers could have very well won a Super Bowl last year, and he screwed their chances because he didn't want to accept a tie with Oakland. It's or Las Vegas, wherever they are now. I don't even know. Everybody's moving.
The Raiders.
I think you guys.
He has a long history of making boneheaded decisions.
You guys can agree. Wouldn't you rather? I would rather have played the Raiders than the Chargers last year in the playoffs. I'm glad with the. I mean, that helped us out. But yeah, Bengals, going off on the Chargers head coach. I
Now
mean,
here,
I don't care.
you want to talk about bad play calling?
Yeah,
Holy shit!
yeah, worst I've ever seen in my life.
Well, the thing was, and this was funny, is Dad and I talk during like the 1 o'clock games or the games that the Bengals aren't playing. We talk on the phone, and I think it drives my wife crazy. We probably call each other like every 5 minutes instead of just staying on the phone for the 3 hours. It's just an on and off conversation. But we were going to break. He was getting a little emotional. He wanted Cleveland to lose real bad, and they were coming to the line, and he made a great point. I wasn't thinking about it. They broke the huddle with like 4 or 5 seconds left. He goes, "This is going to be a hard count. They're going to call timeout. We're going to go to commercial. They're going to come back and punt it. There's no way they're snapping it." And I was like, "All right." And then, as he's saying it, it's happening. And I was like, "Okay, good job, coach." And then they come back from commercial, and I was like, "Uh-oh." And he's like, "What? Uh-oh? You're ahead of me. You can't say uh-oh." I was like, they're at the line. He's like, "No, they're not. You can't don't mess with me." I was like, "They're at the line." And he's like, "You're not going to snap it." And I'm like, "And they did." And he's like, "What?" And it's just
What are you doing, man?
oh, screw you, Cleveland. He's like, I could just hear him screaming in the back. He said much
We're up
more
by
things than
4.
that.
Would
But
you have gone for it on 4th and 2? Say if it was up by more than a field goal, would you have gone for it?
give me the situation again.
And it was at midfield. It's still same situation. It was like 4th and 2 at midfield. But say if it was more than a field goal, you were up by. Would you have gone for it?
How much time's left?
I think
A minute 14.
Punt.
Yeah.
left 4.
Make them go 90 for the
I
touchdown.
punt
I'm not
the
giving
ball.
them 50 yards. I'm not
Less
giving them 50
than
free
field goal.
yards.
I mean,
Field position matters. I don't think they had timeouts. That game was over.
yeah.
Just punt. Let them kill the clock. They're not going to go 95 yards.
Cade York had it, man. He had it right there, but the last second tilted wide right. I'm like, oh my gosh, thank you so much. But I'm like, you've got to be kidding me.
That's why you dropped a kicker.
Yeah,
That's what the Browns are saying.
yeah, exactly. Well, no, the first kick he missed was way off. It wasn't close.
We've got the only reason you draft a kicker.
Well, one person told me that he thought Cade York was better than McPherson and all
I
that.
don't have a whole lot of confidence in Evan right now.
I'm glad you said that.
I'm
I'm waffling on him right now.
well,
No.
that wasn't the cleanest kick for the PAT.
No, you're right.
You
The
know,
snap-
the
The snap was bad. Huber
I
had
don't give a shit if the snap's bad. Close your eyes and kick. It's muscle mechanics. I know I can't say that, and that's not how it works, but my God, you're a professional. Was it down? Was the ball set where it was supposed to be when your foot was going through? Yes. Then why did you shank it 2 rows in the stands past the net? He's done it twice this year. He's done it twice where he's had an absolute woof to the left.
Yeah, they
He's
were
now
both
had an
like
extra. He's
they
now
were
had a
both
blocked
like
extra
25
point.
yarders.
He's now at a blocked extra point beyond the Pittsburgh one, and he's had one that went straight over the upright. That's bad. He's all over the damn place right now.
Yeah,
I
he's
have
off.
no confidence that it's going right down the middle. If you had to line up for a 50-yard field goal right now, McPherson or Tucker, who are you taking?
Tucker. I mean, I have.
Oh, well, I mean, you put them up against the GOAT.
Yeah.
Okay.
Tucker.
Well,
That's a
everybody-
no-brainer.
But
I'd say
everybody in Cincinnati land likes to say that he's the best thing since Tucker. He's not.
No.
He's got a strong ass leg.
He
and it
was last year. He was.
What's his
completely-
stats? What's his stats right now compared to where they were last year at this time?
I don't know. I just know
They're,
he's
they're
erratic.
probably similar
Yeah.
because in the first
And
5
here's
games
the deal.
last year he had that horrible Green
Here's
Bay
the
game.
deal.
Yeah, Green Bay.
Mhm.
I liken kickers to closers. Okay,
To what?
to closers
Oh,
in
please,
this
bowler.
sense. If Evan McPherson kicks one and it hits off the upright and bangs in, do you have a whole lot of confidence that he's going to go out and hit it right down the pipe the next time? When Coco Cordero comes in and walks 2 guys to start the inning, and then it's a line drive out, and then a pop up, some guys are clean about it, and some guys are just dynamite, and some guys are a little erratic. Evan's erratic right now. I don't have a whole lot of confidence in an erratic kicker because you got that much room for error on the base of the ball for it to be ball game or we lose.
Yeah.
That's the truth
Well,
of it.
And
And
I'm
he's
not. I'm
hitting
not
a
one
lot
to.
of- He's
I'm
he's
not one to make excuses.
He's not
but did
clean
you
right
see-
now.
I'm not one to make excuses, but did you see that he was on the injury report last week?
with the groin.
Groin or hamstring. So there may have been something there.
Maybe, but he's erratic.
Maybe.
Well,
He is erratic.
It's
You guys
awesome
were
right.
complaining about special teams. What about Kevin Huber? What is up with him?
Oh my God.
I mean,
It's time. Is he past that number where he's got the most games as a Bengal?
Yes,
Because it's
that
time.
was the
Yes.
first.
yeah.
I mean, when he occasionally kicks one 45 yards. That's it.
I mean,
He,
Lord, I mean, you want
that's the other thing. You know, when people want to blame Zach, and here I'll go back to Evan. Did Zach have the kickoff go out of bounds
no.
to start the second half? No.
Oh,
Did
yeah.
Zach-
I forgot about that one.
did
That was
Zach-
what was that?
Let me ask a question about that though. There's no way he miskicked that like that.
No,
There
he
had to have
he
called a
he hadn't
pooch,
even
right?
tried to kick it over
James?
there.
Yeah.
James, it was the same trajectory as the extra point. That's how he was hitting them that night.
No, because that one was
Erratic.
no. I mean, like on a kickoff, he's banging it through the end zone.
But
That
he
was
missing
on the
them.
30-yard line or something.
He was mishitting them. I tell you, I'm not super confident in him right now. You could see it in his face. They lined up for an extra point. He was just kind of like he was not. There was not the looks like we're going to the AFC Championship, Evan, in his brain last night. That was not there, and I guarantee you, he'd tell you that. Kickers are creatures of habit, and once it's in their head, it's a scary place. But no, Zach didn't kick the ball out of bounds. Zach didn't shank 2 or 3 punts. Zach didn't miss the block on the shovel pass. You know, Zach didn't throw an interception right in a linebacker's lap. You know, Zach didn't take the sack on a trick play where Boyd could have just thrown it out of the back of the end zone. As much as people want to bitch about Zach, your players got to do things the right way, you know. And you know, there's the argument of, well, if they're not executing, that's on the coaches. There's not executing, then there's boneheaded bullshit.
Yep.
Okay. Here's the deal. It's not on Darren Simmons for the way that Huber punted. Huber's a 11, 12-year vet, whatever it is. He should know how to punt a damn football.
Yes,
Okay, that's not on Darren Simmons. That's poor execution on the player. It's not on coaching. There were so many of those things last night, and everybody wants to blame Zach for it. Like, at some point, these are professionals. You got to hold them accountable, too.
Yeah.
Burrow threw for 200 yards against soft coverage. Buddy, like, you got 5 picks in 5 games, and you're not lighting it up. I know you're running around for your life right now, but I expected a little bit more.
I will say, to be fair, 4 of those were in one game.
Still 5-5.
Yeah, the average looks like that, but in the last 4, he's had 1.
Yeah, he's not running around for his life anymore.
No. He has a worse passer rating with a clean pocket right now.
Tell you guys what.
That one.
I'll tell you what. They need wide receiver depth right now. The Panthers, I hear, they already just fired their head coach.
Terrace!
Terrence Marshall.
Go get
Why not go get him? Burrow's teammate at LSU. I saw Joe Goodberry say, go get him right now. I don't care how he's playing. Burrow knows him well. Get Terrence Marshall right now.
Greg, I'm going to correct you, though, really quick. And everybody does this, but I'm going to take the chance to make you look stupid.
Oh, thanks.
Terrace.
Terrence. Yeah.
Harris.
No, it's Terrace. Yeah.
It's Marshall. There's
Here,
no
I'm gonna be only stupid. Was he a wide receiver for
LSU.
Yes.
yeah.
LSU?
in the
Okay.
19 season.
So
It was Chase, Jefferson, Marshall.
if we
Harris
would have
Marshall the third.
we would have probably taken Marshall in the second round.
He
There's-
went to a shit show of a situation in Carolina. They just fired their coach today. They haven't had a quarterback. He's had like 4 different quarterbacks. Greg's fallen into the dark side legitimately. He's back. I'd think about it. You know,
Why?
quite frankly, I thought Michael Thomas played fine last night.
No, he did.
I would
Mhm.
think about it.
Get the guy he knows. He, like you said, he went to a horrible situation. Matt Rule, I mean, I don't know what his plan was there, but he just was in a bad situation.
Matt Rule is a little suspect.
Flash in the pan.
I don't
In
even know if
college.
it's flashing the point. Well, yeah, in college, sure.
Where you going?
Uh-oh.
I can't say anything. I'm on the Bengal podcast right now.
What's going on? What's going on?
Nothing.
You need to be muted, sir.
Not a darn thing.
Okay. Yeah, but we'll wrap this up here because we're going on an hour, and that's kind of the negative time frame here. Who's cooking?
That's my wife. Sorry.
Microwave.
If the line keeps doing what it's doing, I expect them to go back to their 5 wide ways, and I think it's going to open up soon. And I think they have a golden opportunity with these next 6 games.
Can I say one more negative thing?
No, why?
I got a bad feeling against Andy Dalton.
Me too.
Well, he plays well against us. I'll say
I
that.
have a bad feeling. I think he is going to pick
What do you
them
think?
apart on
Okay.
6-7. He's going to do the very thing that Burrow doesn't want to do. He will do that to us,
Check down Charlie.
just like he did in that first drive when he was with the Bears last year.
Yeah,
They
they
went right through us, and then he got
tearing
hurt.
through us with the
No,
Bears.
when they took him out, that's when we got back in the game and they put Fields. Before they took him out, he was shredding us apart. I'm
And I
scared.
saw he hasn't played a good game yet with the Saints.
No, and he's.
But I'm a little leery about this.
I am too. Bengal Dad, I'm the same way, man. I mean, they have a good team around him.
All right, so preview the next couple games here. At the Saints.
They've given up some points, haven't they?
They have, but they've been playing some shitty defense.
You know, Burrow and Jamar are going to want to have a big circus, 200, these deep passes and everything, and they're not going to give it to us.
No way.
Go
That's
5
gonna hurt.
wide.
Let him.
At this point, I trust the offensive line enough to say, if you want to go too high, I'm going to run 5 wide.
What kind of pass rushers do they have? They have Cam Jordan, right?
Yeah.
Who else do they have? They got anything that you got to worry about?
They don't have Trey Hendrickson anymore.
No, they don't have him.
Corner wise, they have Lattimore.
I think Trey Henderson's the most held defensive lineman that never
Oh,
gets holding calls.
God.
He is constantly.
I hate begging for penalties, and you rarely see me say anything like, "Oh, the refs cost us the game," or "Someone paid out." I hate that shit. They're humans. They make mistakes. They're not biased. Some of them just suck at their job. It is what it is. It's the human element of football. I don't blame refs, but my God, does he seemingly get held every single play?
Speaking of refs, speaking of referees, what about the roughing the passer on Tom Brady yesterday?
I didn't see that, but
We
my
had a
God.
worse one in our game that wasn't called.
It was just like the tackle. It was just like Tua, but with no violence.
oh, I saw that. I saw.
He just kind of rolled.
So they also have Davenport, Marcus Davenport. He's solid. He hasn't necessarily lived up to the hype of a first-round pick,
Garbage disposal.
but they got
Did you see Brissett though? How he acted, the guy barely touched him, but he fell down. I mean, got an Academy Award for that because that got them a fresh set of downs and a touchdown right there for Brissett.
Well, Kenny Pickett was bitching about it too, and I'm like, dude, you have played 4 snaps. You do not get the right to complain about a low hit yet.
Hey, keep playing Pickett. I'm not complaining.
Yeah.
Okay, who we got? So we got the Saints that you think are laughable, and I'm worried about. Who else we got?
Panthers. No, Falcons after that.
Yeah. Then the Falcons.
Yeah, they'll probably decide to make the move next week to Ritter.
Then the Falcons, then the Browns, then the
The Browns.
Panthers.
bother me.
Guys,
Browns on Monday Night Football in Cleveland bother me.
Halloween.
I'm going to say right now, I think the Browns are the most complete team in this division,
easily. No problem saying that.
and they don't have a quarterback yet.
They should be 5-0. Easily, they should be 5-0 right now.
I was gonna say they can't finish a game right now, but it's because Brissett keeps throwing picks at the end of games. Brissett's thrown 3 interceptions in the final 2 minutes of games this year.
Yeah.
You can't do that. You can't give teams extra possessions with a minute left. God,
I don't think he has any in any other time, right?
No, I don't think he has.
Well, it's actually 4 now because he did that or whatever it was. It's 3 or 4. He keeps picking off late. So Cleveland, at the moment, I have to say loss.
Easily. I'm sorry.
Carolina.
That'll put us 0-3 in the division, by the way.
Yeah. Carolina. I would hope that's a win.
Gosh, I hope so.
Going to Pittsburgh, from what I've seen, I will take my chances again if they don't have Watt.
And we'll have a long snapper this time.
Yeah, so I'll take my chances there. Tennessee, if Reader's
gotta win
back,
that
I
game.
feel good. If Reader's back, I feel good. If not, that might be a little suspect. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That's the next 6: Saints, Atlanta, Browns, Panthers, Steelers, Titans. You got a really good chance to go 4-2 and right the ship here.
You do.
And
I think they better go 5-1.
well, that's
When you look at
winning
the
5
the
and 6
six
is a
that
high
follow that,
expectation.
look at the 6 that follow that.
I don't want to.
No. Bengals, would you stop it, please? Like,
Kansas City,
To me, it's like taking a test, taking one
Cleveland,
question at a time.
Tampa, New England,
Oh,
Buffalo, and Baltimore. If you're going right now, they might go 3-3 and then 0-6.
jeez, man.
They could easily, go 5-12 at the moment. If this is the way it's going to be the rest of the year, I'm booking 5-12. If they pick it up, they get a chance to squeak into the playoffs at like 9-8.
Starts next week.
Quite
Come on.
frankly, what we did last year. So
Do this.
Greg's getting fired up.
That's right.
All right, last thing before we jump off here. Who you got tonight? Raiders or Chiefs? Wouldn't it be nice to see the Chiefs struggle and go, okay, we're not the only ones?
I think the Raiders are going to come out, man. I have confidence in the Raiders.
Where's it at?
I don't know. America?
I think it's Kansas City.
Oh, Arrowhead. I'm going to go Chiefs.
Yeah.
I got to go Chiefs.
I don't know.
Is it an Arrowhead?
I don't.
Is this the Mexico game?
Is it?
I don't know.
Kansas City, the Raiders tonight. It's at Arrowhead.
Oh, okay.
That's tough.
Kansas City by 25. 25. I'm serious. 25. They'll be up by 21 at half.
We shall see.
I'll say 17. They win by.
I think we woke the Chiefs up.
Yeah, you really should have got me braces.
I did.
Oh, my God.
Craig.
Oh, no, I'm sorry, man. No, I'm like,
What happened to your face?
now I'm going to talk out of the side of my mouth like I look like Elvis for the rest of my life.
okay. Nah, I mean,
Oh,
I'm not much better, trust me.
Now, so I had 3 rows at one point. I had like a shark mouth. Then I had a big cyst on my face right here, and Dad used to call me Asia or Africa or something.
Africa.
because
Yeah.
He said it was shaped like Africa. It was like this big. Just smack that. It was great.
Well, say, Tori, if you're going to go by Jaws, we should call you Jaw Tory.
Oh, let's not.
Okay.
All right. Well, gentlemen, I'm going to bop off here.
Yeah,
It was
me
a
too.
little longer than I wanted, but I think we had some frustrations to vent, and Bengal Dad had to eat dinner.
Yeah.
So,
That was good.
how are your pork chops?
They were wonderful. Kim makes the best pork chops.
Okay.
nice.
I bet I could make a better one.
No.
Ooh.
Ooh. here we
Cook
go.
off. Cook off.
She won't let me cook in her kitchen. I can't.
Oh, hey, I got to ask one other question. I can't help it because I keep looking at myself, and that's not a good thing to do. Do I look like Joe Burrow's dad?
No.
Nah,
Okay. I don't know. They were showing him. He's got a real red face. They were showing him on TV last night, though, with the red face.
Where were you the night of? No, I'm just kidding.
I'll
No.
take it if Joe's my son. I'll figure it out. It'd have been before you.
Goodbye.
Oh,
Damn. The meanest thing he's ever said. That's up there when he called me a failure after my math test. Damn.
Kim just says,
Here.
"You can have George Clooney."
here. This is for you, Santori. You just drink away your troubles.
Jeez. Well, if he's my son, yeah.
You wouldn't want him as a brother?
You did that. My brother's more athletic than Joe Burrow.
You don't
Let's
want
be
Joe
honest.
Burrow as a brother.
No.
Oh,
I already feel poor. You want to add a millionaire to this mix? Jesus. I'm already not good enough. Don't just add it on more. Of course, maybe he'll loan me some money.
Yeah.
And go.
Oh, hey, Santori, your brother showed up.
Yay.
Son.
Thank you.
Oh, wrong guy.
Wrong 9.
Yeah, wrong guy.
Should be. Hefty, what did I say for should be? Pork chop cook-off.
Pork chop cook-off.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
No,
Do it
I'll
live.
Cook off. I just got to stop at Midwest Barbecue quickly and all that. Okay, I'm just kidding.
Browns should be 5-0. Honestly,
Easily.
yeah, they should.
I think
Hefty.
And-
3 teams in our division could be 4-1.
Easily.
I think one team should be 0-5,
Yes.
and I don't think that's a stretch.
No,
They were an extra point away from being 0-5.
easily.
They were a long snapper mishap from being 0. God, what that's one thing. I can deal with the Bengals sucking as long as the Steelers are below us, because it still gives me something to watch.
Guys, I hate Cleveland more than I hate Pittsburgh. I'm telling you, Cleveland fans are the most annoying. If Cleveland ever won the Super Bowl, I would hide out for like 3 or 4 weeks and never talk with anybody because you
Fair.
hate Cleveland more than Pittsburgh. I cannot say. I worked with one Browns fan, I've told you guys, and if the Browns ever won, he probably called me or something. I want to see the Browns get annihilated just to see him upset because every day he would talk Browns and it annoyed me.
You're a little vindictive, Greg. You're
I'm
like, you murder ducks. You want your coworkers to be sad.
What the way this guy talked every day, he came in.
Your
saying,
favorite movies about prison, like
Oh, Shawshank.
he's gone again.
Oh.
One thing I do want to get into before we hop off here.
Yeah.
Um,
Hey guys, I really got to get going and all that and stuff. I have a family member who wants to talk to me, so
Greg, you know what I'm about to say anyway. Hop off here, and we'll catch up later.
See, bro.
For those that helped, there was quite a large group chat, possibly 2 or 3 of them out there. First and foremost, I want to say my condolences to the Altman family. For those of you that watch Bengals and Brews and are part of this Bengal, I think it's called the Bengal fam base at this point. I've seen that floated around quite a few times. Our condolences to the Altman family. Dale of Bengal and Brews lost his mother this week. So, just keep them in your thoughts and prayers. But something, I guess, silver lining, beneficial. I hate saying that with such a somber tone. We initially kind of got together in a couple group chats saying that we wanted to do something nice for the Altman family. Tyler, TikTok Tyler, I always say his last name wrong. I'm sorry, man. Tyler M.
Minor ding. That's right. I think that's right.
Minor ding. Okay.
Yeah.
He kind of, I don't even know what you say. It took on a role of collaborating this entire thing with a bunch of Bengals fans. And we just wanted to raise money for some flowers or like a wind chime or some kind of memorial plaque that, the Altman family could have. And we weren't really sure what direction we wanted to go with it, but we at least just started donating the money and got it into a pot anyway. I had called Dale a couple days ago and just kind of was like, hey, I'm thinking about getting you guys flowers. And he's like, no, screw the flowers. And you could probably understand how Dale said it. It was not as polite as screw the flowers. But I was like, wind chime. He said, I got one for my dad. I was like, okay. I was like, a plaque. He's like, no. And he was like, honestly, it would mean more to me if you guys just donated it to a charity. And I don't know if it was near and dear to his heart or he just kind of threw it out there. But the first thing he said was the Hayden Hurst Foundation, which is near and dear to my heart. They help with mental health stigma. So, at one point we had raised, I think like $215, and we were just getting ready to cut the check. And I kind of got with the group chat, said, "Hey, I'll cut this check. It's $215. It's going to be great. Like, we'll donate it in Connie, Dale's mother's name, and this is going to be good." And then Matt from Bengals and Bourbon.
Well, no, I did first. I said
Okay,
I'll throw in 35 to make it an even 250, and
Yeah.
then Matt was like, "You know what? Screw it. I'm throwing 50 in it to make it a 300."
Yeah, it turned into a I am Spartacus battle, and everybody just kind of kept upping the ante.
Orange
And-
arrow.
Yeah, but by the end of the night, we hit 350, and we cut the check, and I got a nice letter that I'll share.
360.
360. Well, there's a
Greg.
processing fee, so I'm sorry. So there was a processing fee, but it ended up being 360 raised, 350 donated. And I got a lovely letter back from the foundation they're very thankful for it. And then the next morning, because not everybody reads Twitter DMs back and forth. Dad, you were in that too. I'm sure you were getting tired of all the constant notifications. I guess Cap missed the memo early on, which he's incredibly busy with charity work himself, and he was like, "Oh crap!" And I got a notification, and he sent us the receipt that he pumped in $100 himself. So, when all was said and done, I had a couple friends donate. I know, I think Christine on Twitter reached out and said she was going to donate. We probably hit close to $500 on this entire thing for the Hayden Hurst Foundation, which is something that, I'm really proud of as, somebody that tries to do some good charity work. But I was very happy that we were able to do that in memory of Connie. And the Altmans, they are going through a hard time right now. So if you guys have thoughts, prayers, I'm sure they will still gladly take even a dollar donation to that organization in her name. Just keep Dale, Marissa, his daughters. Pretty sure he's got a brother and a sister that are going through all this too. Just keep them, your thoughts and prayers. So, Dale, we're with you. I'll see you tomorrow, bud. Ash, Jeff, and I know are making the trek up to Portsmouth tomorrow. So if everybody could just keep them in your prayers, we would really appreciate it.
Absolutely.
Yep.
And on a lighter note, we're going to kick the Saints' ass in 5 days. You confident, Dad? He says, yes.
Ask me after the first quarter.
Ask you after the second quarter because this team doesn't get going until the third.
That's what I'm talking about. Ask me after the first quarter.
We're doing it.
I think there's a watch party at the movie theater coming up this week for the Saints. So push for that if you guys want it, because I think that RJ Cinema would be fun. And James, you need to actually go this time instead of saying that you have a family or something. I don't know what that excuse was.
How dare me?
But thank you for everybody who watched tonight. We did go probably double what we wanted to, but frustrations, and wanted to say that piece about the Altmans. And God, how did they do it in the 70s and 80s? For all of us here at Rally Around the Natty. For Bengal Dad, Cincy James, Greg for the 8 minutes he decided to come on and talk about killing ducks. I'm Santori Miles. And stay classy, San Diego.